Bob, my brother, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm so sorry about that. Obviously, I did not have that upgraded. My apologies to everyone.
No worries, no worries. I was just going on a little rant in the meantime, talking about obviously your phenomenal book and the ideology behind it.
Well, thank you.
So let's just start off by, first of all, for the people who don't know Bob, he is a phenomenal speaker, an author of a very famous series, the Go Giver series. And for your community, my name is Christopher Dedeyan. I'm a speaker and a peak performance coach. And Bob, I just want to start off by jumping in and just thanking you, honestly, because for the book that you brought out, for I know how many people you've helped with it and how it supported me just recently when I picked it up. And as you see these books in the back, I read about a book a week, and it's rare that a book makes on my list or on my shelf on the part of rereads. And once I finish reading this book, I'm like, yo, this is something I'm going to reread 100%. So I just wanted to thank you about that.
Thank you.
And my first question, and I want to have your ideology behind this. Once you started writing the first Go Giver book, did you know that it was going to be, we could call it a phenomenon, we could call it something very massive and it was going to hit so many people in a massive way? Did you have that feeling when you were writing it?
We thought there'd be a market for it. We thought it would be a successful book. I don't know if you can ever predict, you know, what happened in terms of how it caught on, and that was really because I think the people who first adopted it into their lives were the people who didn't need to. They were the people who are already very successful, and they were doing these things and applying these principles long before they ever read the book. And that's what they wrote to us and let us know, this is how I built my business. This is how I built my fortune. This is how I built this massive tit, right? But then they would say, but my own people won't believe me when I tell them that, and so I think the book became sort of third party credibility for a lot of people who wanted to share these principles, but needed someone else to kind of, I guess, tell them. So those were our early adopters, and they really spread the word, and they bought, tens of books, hundreds of books. There were companies that bought thousands of copies to put through their companies. And then the second wave of adopters were the persons we heard from who were given the book by someone or were told about it by a mentor or, had, so I think that's really how it started.
I mean, Bob, that is amazing, honestly, just that ideology of how it caught on and how it like essentially spread. And you mentioned something that's extremely important I want to highlight. You said the people that started reading this and kind of brought it to the mainstream, let's call it, were people that were already doing it. They were highly successful. But that just leaves a clue right there. Anybody that is already at a high level continually seeks information, continually seeks
Absolutely.
to sharpen the saw, just like they say in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So just by you saying that, I'm like, yo, this is very spot on. And in my personal thing was actually my sales coach told me, hey, Chris, you need to read this. This is what all your sales team needs to read. And I'm like, all right, cool. If he's telling me, let me read it. So I was on the second wave of that. So that's amazing on that end. And Bob, let me ask you, how did you get in sales? Because I know that initially you started as a broadcaster, if I'm not mistaken, in a local news station, and then you went into sales. How did this whole transition happen to you? And then really like, hey, yeah, I need to be in sales.
Well, really, I was in a very small market. I was working for an ABC affiliate in the Midwestern United States, but it was a very small affiliate, and that it was like the first step on the rise, right? And so I wasn't making a lot of money. I also kind of figured out pretty early I wasn't that good at it. And so, I had a feeling that between that and not having much money, I kind of needed to find something. And so while I was actually still working at the TV station, I began selling advertising. And so I always say I graduated into sales. And the challenge was I knew nothing about professional selling. I had never done so before in a professional way, never had any training. And the company where I was working, there was really no training at all. So it was sort of just me out on my own. So for the first few months, I just stumbled, I floundered. Fortunately, in a bookstore one day, and this is about 40 years ago now, I found a couple of books. One was by Tom Hopkins, one was by Zig Ziglar, two of the icons in the sales space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just to see the titles of the book, just to see the covers that they were about how to sell. Wow, I couldn't believe that. Remember, this is 40 years ago. It wasn't as known as it is now. And so, I mean, there's a methodology to this. There's a system to this. And so I just got their books. I would study it into the wee hours of the morning, and I just started applying it. And pretty much from the beginning, as I began doing that, my sales improved dramatically. I think the key was having a system, and I personally define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key being predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then you know all you need to do is A and continue to do A, and eventually you'll get the desired result of B. That gave me the confidence to know that I could do that. Then it was a matter of, making sure it was always within my value system, within my style, and so forth, to be able to do that.
Okay, so that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So you picked up this book, obviously Zig Ziglar being like OG, let's call him, on like the personal development side. And there's one thing I want to ask with that, because once I read this, I've read other sales books, but this one resonated with me differently just because it's the ideology and the mindset of giving so much more than actually asking. So how did you transition the ideology of being a standard salesman, which is, let's call it prospecting, your warm leads, cold leads, so on and so forth, to understanding, hey, wait a minute, it helps so much more when I do it like this. It helps so much more when I do this, that, and the other, and made it into that fuzzy lead, which you talk about within the book. How did you start understanding that? How did that happen for you?
I think it happened to me as the result of being in a very massive slump. I'd been in business, I'd been in sales for about 2 years, and then I was doing well, but I joined another company. And it was a company that was selling a high ticket item. And I started out just, in a slump right from the beginning. And I was having trouble getting out of it. And what I did as a young salesperson, I did the exact opposite thing of what you should do to get out of a slump. I was panicking. I was focusing on myself. I was attached to the results. And it was all about me and how I'm going to, right? Which, of course, had the opposite effect of what I wanted. And one day I came back to the office after another missed sale, and one of the gentlemen who was there, I was sitting in the sales lounge, and one of the men who was there, he was an older guy. He was not in the sales department. I think he was an engineer, and he even retired soon after. I didn't know him very well, but he was one of these guys. He didn't say much, but whenever he did it, it was always something profound. And fortunately, I think he saw me as sort of Joe in the Go-Giver that would be written, that I'd write with John David Mann 15 or 20 years later. He saw me as that young, up and coming, ambitious, aggressive, really on it sales guy who was also very frustrated and not achieving to his potential, and whose focus was totally in the wrong place. And so he said to me, Burg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Burg, can I give you some advice? And I said, yes, please do. I need it. And he said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target, he said, is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, you'll get a reward. And that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And that's when it hit me that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the product or the service, as important as those certainly are. Great salesmanship is about the other person. It's about adding significant value to those whose lives you touch. It's about another person's life being better just because you are part of it. And I think that when we can approach sales and selling from that point of view, from that premise, from that foundation, we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Bob, that was delicious. That was beyond delicious what you just mentioned over there. So many golden nuggets, and the fact that you got that wisdom, that that person within your life, that mentor telling you that, and then from you understanding it and shifting it is just great. And there's so much value there, which I thoroughly believe. And my other part that I want to ask a question within the sales aspect, because now you're saying you were coming from a place that, hey, you were kind of being frustrated, wanting to make the sale, thinking about the financial thing. And you did mention in the book as well that there is a moment that you should push away. Don't be a needy salesperson, right? I think that's the words that you utilize. And how, this is my question, how do you not be a needy salesperson when you need to pay your bills, when the end of the month is coming in, it's really hard, when you haven't done sales X month? And you're absolutely right. And I know I've felt it. I've always been in sales. I've felt the difference between when everything's popping, everything's going great, selling is so much easier. But when it's rough, you want it a bit more and you're clinching a bit more, and subconsciously, energetically, people feel it. So how do you turn that off when you're having those difficult moments, when you're starting off, to be like, hey, you know what? Let me shift my mindset and really be on serving others. How do you do so? What do you suggest within that end?
So I think the first part of that is a consciousness. It's understand. It's an awareness that you're doing that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that, you know, really, as a rule of law, nobody wants to do business with those who need them too much.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come off needy, just, you know, realistically, when you come off needy, you're going to be less attractive to that person. So it's actually in your best interest to be able to take your focus off yourself and your needs and place it on the others. Now, that's awareness, but now how do you really do that? How do you shift your mind? And understand that as human beings, we are, um, what's the right word? We are,
Conscious?
huh?
I was going to say conscious.
No, so we're self-focused. You know,
Oh,
you know what I'm
yes,
saying? And people are
100%.
very much as human beings. I mean, that's how people survive from, you know, generation to generation back in the, you know, from the cave person days on, because you had to be self-interested. You had to be able to survive, right? Now
Mm-hmm.
that of course doesn't serve us as well these days because we don't have
Mm-hmm.
that same sort of situation. So what I would say now is, don't try to deny your self-interest, because again, it's hardwired into us. We are self-interested creatures. Don't try and deny it, because it's contrary to human nature. So that's not going to work. Don't deny your self-interest, but temporarily suspend it. Place it to the side, right? So you can totally focus on that other person. Now, let's ask, why would that work better? Let's take two situations. And let's say I'm I'm the salesperson and you're the prospect.
Okay.
And I really need the money. So I need this sale. I need this sale to happen. Okay. And that's really what's on my mind. So I go into this presentation with you and I'm focused on the money. So what do? Well, I ask you questions because I've been trained to ask you questions, but I'm not really listening with a true interest in your needs, wants, and desires. I'm more listening so I can figure out how to sharp angle you into buying from me, right? When you have an objection, I'm a little bit defensive about it because, hey, this objection of yours is standing in the way of my money. So I answer
Mm-hmm.
a little bit sharply and maybe aggressively. I'm perhaps trying to close a little too hard. Well, by the end of this presentation, are you more likely or less likely to buy from me? And I'd say probably less likely, right? And I would say all agree with that. Now, I'm the same person. I still have that same financial need, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
realize that you're not buying because of me. Okay. You know, one of the things that when I speak at a sales conference, I'll often begin by saying is, nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right?
True.
They're not going to buy from you because you need the money. And they're not even going to buy from you just because you're a really nice person. Okay. They're going to buy from you because they believe that ultimately it's in their best interest to
Mm-hmm.
do so. Okay. So we saw what happened in the first uh,
Example.
example. Now let's go to this one. Same person. I still need the money, but I'm going to temporarily suspend my self-interest and put the focus totally on you and how I can serve you. So now I go in there and I ask questions, but now I'm really listening because I want to understand what you need, what
Hmm.
you want, what you desire. What are your challenges? How can my product or service and how can I help you overcome those challenges? How can I bring you closer to happiness as you understand happiness? And even when you answer the questions, I'm listening to make sure that I truly understand what I think you mean. And so I'm even asking for clarification and I'm asking to go deeper. And you know that I am looking out for you. You can sense it. Now, when you have a question or objection, rather than be defensive, I welcome it. And you and I are going to work together at getting to the actual root of the objection to understand what it is and then deal with it constructively that way in order to move the sale forward. Okay. I've discovered what you need, what you want, what you desire. And only at that point do I begin to connect the benefits of my product or service with what you need, want, or desire. Now, when I finally ask for the sale, I'm simply asking you to take action on something you've already told me that you want to do. Are you more likely or less likely to buy from me right now?
100%.
Sure.
100%. And there's a couple of distinctions that I just want to clarify, highlight once again with what you just said. So one, like you said, is really intrinsic on me, my sale, my bottom line, towards the other one is 100% intrinsically directed towards the person that's in front of you. What value can I bring? How can I help them? And you do that by asking questions and being interested within that person. And as you're doing that, you're not thinking about your financial situation, you're just there present. And one thing you mentioned as well, which was very interesting, when there is an objection that comes out, it's not me against you. It's both of us together against the objection. And we're looking at, okay, what can we do? So already you're correlating a subconscious understanding to the person that we're a team, we're working on it together. And then you go for potentially, hey, I have this product, I think this could help you out. Let's go ahead and work together. I love the way that you brought that out and you clarified. Definitely going to use it in my life. Going to tell my sales teams to kind of bring it up on in the forefront as well. Now, that being said, the only book that I've read of yours is this one, and I'm 100% going to buy all the other ones and read it, Bob, because it definitely helped me out. But I do know the other ones are influence, leader, so on and so forth. Now, how does that correlate the goal-giver mentality, not only in sales, but as a leader, as an influencer, as a human being, as a father, as a mother, as a doctor, as whatever you are? How does that correlate on that realm in itself?
Well, the entire go-giver philosophy, if you will, if we want to call it that, is it regardless of which book it is, and there are 4 in the series, and they all come down to this, that shifting your focus, which we've already alluded to, right? So shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, of selling, of leading, of influence, what have you, it's the most financially profitable way as well. And not for some, way out there woo-woo type of magical, mystical reason. It actually makes very rational, logical sense. When you're that person who can take your focus off of yourself and place it onto that other person, again, whether it's your prospect, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, whether it's someone in your organization who you're leading, and take your focus off yourself, place it on helping them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, people feel good about you. They want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in a relationship with you. They want to do business with you. We say when it comes to influence, right? When you think about influence, there's the definition, but then there's the real essence. The definition of influence is simply the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. That's influence.
Mm-hmm.
That's the definition, but that's not its essence. The essence of influence is pull. Pull as opposed to push. As in the old question, how far can you push a rope? And we know the answer is not very, at least not very fast and effectively, which is why great leaders, great influencers don't push. You never hear someone saying, wow, that Tom or that Diane, she is so influential. She has a lot of push with people. No,
Mm-hmm.
Diane is influential. She has a lot of pull with people. So, you know, influential people, genuine influencers, don't push their ideas on others. They don't push themselves on others. They don't push their will on others. They're not push-y. They utilize pull. Now, what's pull? Pull is an attraction. Great influencers attract people first to themselves, then to their ideas. And they do this, again, not through push, but through pull. How does that pull manifest itself? Well, we go right back to that genuine influencer understanding that that people are going to do, as Dale Carnegie put it, people do things for their reasons, not our reasons. So the great influencer, the genuine influencer, asks themselves questions to make sure they're focused correctly. See, we should be internally motivated, but outwardly focused. And so the questions a genuine influencer asks themselves is, how does what I'm asking this other person to do, how does it align with their goals, with their wants, their needs, their desires? How does what I'm asking this other person to do, how does it align with their values? What problems am I helping them to solve? How am I helping them achieve it, right? And when we ask ourselves questions like this thoughtfully, intelligently, genuinely, authentically, not as a way to manipulate another human being into doing our will, but as a way of building everyone in the process, now we've come a lot closer to earning that person's commitment, as opposed to trying to depend on some type of compliance. You know, real quickly, one of my great mentors, her name is Dondi Scumaci. And what she says is, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to influence, compliance will never take you where commitment can go.
Let's go. Let's go. Bob, you were ranting. That was beautiful, my brother. Like, I mean, so many things. I'm just excited to re-listen to this, honestly, because I'm going to take down some notes and take down some distinctions of what you just said. I love the analogy of the push and the pull. And one thing that you said that really clarified certain aspects for me is all of this happens when you're living in your greatness, when you're living within your light. When you're living your purpose, that becomes so powerful that that's where the pull comes in about. And that starts within, but then you start looking at, okay, what can I do outwardly to bring more value? But all starts within, with what I'm understanding with what you just explained over here. And I mean, that's just spot on. Thank you for sharing that, Bob. And let me ask you, because I've seen a bunch of good content. I know that you have a nice YouTube channel as well, and behind it you have a bunch of books, just like we're seeing right now. And as an author that has done several books, what is your most influential books that really has shaped you, changed you, or what are a couple of the books that were like, oh yeah, these are the ones that really helped me out throughout my life?
You know, there are so many that I mean, I could spend an hour just going through some of my favorite books and how they've added to my life. I think there are a few I would probably just recommend to everyone, though. You know, I mean, and these are aside from the ones that we're all familiar with, these How to Win Friends and Influence People and Heels Think and Grow Rich and you know, and all, which are all wonderful, wonderful books. We should all have them. But ones that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, there's a book called Peace, Power, and Plenty that was written in 1906 by Orison Swett Marden. He is the founder of Success Magazine. And yeah, and he's often known as the founder of the modern day personal development movement. And his book, and please pardon me for having turned my back on.
No, please.
His book is just very special. I mean, it's
Oh my God.
yeah. Wow. Peace, power, and plenty. You think about it. Isn't that what life is about? It's having inner peace. It's the power to know that we're in control of our emotions and control of ourselves and can be the most effective person we can be. Plenty, which is about abundance, which allows us to live our values in our life. I mean, so every page is just an absolute gem. There's a great book that was written lately.
I love it. You're just pulling out from your library. I love this so much.
It's by Professor Adam Grant. It's called Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. Have you read that? You look like you...
I haven't, but it's on my list. That's why I'm like excited about that you're mentioning it.
You won't be able to put it down.
Okay.
This is something we need today more than anything. In a culture that we have right now in which so many people seem to have the philosophy that My mind's made up. Don't confuse me with the facts.
Mm-hmm.
This book really teaches us how to want the facts and even want to know when we're wrong and want to know that so that we can improve ourselves and we can improve the effect that we have on others. And it's how to speak with others in a way that we can help them see where there may be more to a situation than what they, than what they think.
That is amazing.
Thinking Fast and Slow by Dr.
Yes.
Daniel Kahneman. To me, and it's a big book, but it's one that I think is very worthwhile, and it's actually a fun read. But we pretty much as human beings, we know that people, we act out of emotion. We're very emotionally driven, and make decisions that way. Even though we'd like to think we're logical, we're generally not. But this book takes that to a new level where you can really see the different ways that you may do things or people do things that are so really emotional or irrational. But the reason why it's good to know this is because I think the most important thing we can ever do is study and understand human nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because our lives, our success is based upon our relationships, whether we're talking about business or personal or whatever. And to the degree that we understand human nature, really what drives people, that's the degree, first of all, we can be less judgmental about others and about ourselves, because we know there are certain aspects of human nature, the general psychological aspects that are common to all, right? And so I think it's worth the study to be able to do that.
All right. First of all, thank you for sharing that. Actually, one of the books, the first one, I had no idea what it was, so I'm definitely going to go on my list. The other ones are already there, so thank you for sharing that. And I love the fact that you're showing it, and you took down some notes, you took down some highlights, and it just shows me like, hey, like if you're doing it like that, it's the right way to go about it, taking down notes, writing in the margin. So I definitely invite everybody to kind of do the same thing when you approach a book, because a book is not just to be read, it's like to feel it, to go into it, to highlight and all that stuff. And yeah, everything you just mentioned was beautiful. And one last question I want to ask you, Bob. You are a great thought leader. You have your books. You position yourself as a speaker for many years now. How would you suggest, and this is maybe like a more selfish question because I am newly in the game of speaking and coaching and all that, been doing it for 3+ years now, and God bless, it's been going very well. But how do you suggest to level up and go to the next level? How were you able to go from being that broadcaster to doing in sales, then afterwards becoming the prolific speaker, the eloquent speaker and writer that you became? How was that process? What do you suggest for a starter to go to that direction, essentially?
Well, I mean, I think it's anything else. You learn the system, and a speaking business, a speaking practice is a business. And, so the first thing I did is I joined the National Speakers Association, which is an association of, you're in Canada. I know they have CAPS.
CAPS. Yeah, I'm a part of that as well.
Yeah. And so and also, a lot of our CAPS brothers and sisters join us at the NSA, National Speakers Association meetings too. And then your province probably, I would think, has a local chapter.
Absolutely.
So I would do that because you're getting around people who are either very successfully doing it or looking to do that. And there's so much information that's shared between all those people. Then, you look at people like a Lois Kramer out of St. Louis, or David Newman out of Philadelphia, or Jane Atkinson, one of your fellow Canadians. And they've all put together wonderful programs, books and audios and videos and blogs on how to be a successful professional speaker. So again, it's that system. It's the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. And when we follow that, then that's how we do.
I love it.
I
love it.
There's nothing really magical about it, is there?
I mean, I love hearing that. That's the honest truth. When people ask me, hey, Chris, how do you become so high performer? How do you wake up at 4 a.m.? It's the rituals and the habits that you put within your life and you consistently do it. And that's what you're talking about right here. It's you're putting the proper team around you. You have proper mentors. You mentioned David Newman, which actually I followed his program as well. So these are just resources around you that are there and it's consistently doing it. Now, one last question. I just want to be respectful for your time here, Bob, but one last question that I have. how do you catch yourself? If you have that mentality of the goal giver, how do you catch yourself when you have stepped out of the mentality of let me think about serving and you're more looking at it within? Because my experience, I'm somebody that gives a lot, but I have to catch myself. I have to be always aware. So what are the rituals, the habits, or what do you do to catch yourself? Like, oh, wait a minute, I'm thinking way too much about Bob right now. I should be thinking about the other. I'm thinking about way too much about Chris. I should think about the other. How do you go about that?
I think we form a habit, as you were talking about habits, you form a habit of staying conscious, being aware, questioning yourself, questioning your motives. And then you also realize that you're a human being, and sometimes you're just going to do it anyway, because that's what being a human being is. But to the degree that we can stay conscious of it, and as a very quick example, just, I have a great business partner, her name is Kathy Tajanel. And so we often write sales letters when we have a project going, and so whenever I first put down a thing for a sales letter, Kathy and I will, when I write it out, Kathy and I will go through it. And what is it that we catch throughout? Every reference to the word I, me, or about because it's not about us. It's about the people reading it who might use it. But, I'm human. And so as I'm writing it out the first time, I'm not even thinking that. And half the time, not even catching it until Kathy does. And then we go through it. And it's, oh my gosh. And we write the whole thing over because we need to make it about the person who's going to buy it, not the person who's selling it.
I love that. I love that. So just having the proper team around you, that external position, and just always being aware of that. Hey, I'm a human being. I could go on the other way. So let's just be aware of what the value is, what the goal is, what my why is. So Bob, thank you very much. And one last thing I just want to ask you, what can I do to support you more? What can I do to help you more? Because I really believe that this book, your story, all of your books should be more out there. So is there anything that I could do to add more value and to position you in front of the proper people that you need to be positioned in front of?
I think you, just by doing this, you've supported it. And I know you talk about it, you put the word out, and that's always a neat thing. We have a Go-Giver Success Alliance online mentorship community. And that's something that, we're very excited about right now. We have a great group of people. So anyone who'd like to check that out, they can see the link tree on my Instagram profile, and they can check that out if they'd like.
Awesome. And I'll link it in the descriptions as well. I'll link it in the YouTube because this is going to be on YouTube as well. If you guys have any questions, if you're watching this live or afterwards on the repeat, please put it in the comments. We'll be checking it. We'll be replying. And on on my YouTube channel as well, it will be there. And if you guys have any questions, we'll respond to it. So Bob, thank you very much, my brother, for sharing this moment with me. Thank you for the amazing golden nuggets that you left us today. And just keep on doing your phenomenal job because you're definitely helping a lot of lives.
Thank you, Chris. And thanks everyone for being with us. I wish you all a fantastic weekend.
All right, Bob. Have a great one.